Okay. This is a meeting of the Engrossment Rules, Resolution, and Credentials Committee meeting held this Wednesday, May 27th, starting a little late, approximately 1:18 p.m. And the Rules Committee is called to order. Mr. Clerk or Madam Clerk, who do we have? Mr. Clerk?
I'm on, Sharita.
Oh, Madam Clerk. Okay, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Alderwoman Howard.
Present.
Alderwoman Green.
Present.
Alderman Tide. Chairwoman Tyers.
Present.
Alderman Tide.
Put your hands up.
Alderman Tide, can you hear us? Alderwoman, you have 3 present.
Okay, I'm going to leave it open about excused Alderman because I can see Alderman Todd, so he's clearly here. So this is mechanical, and at some point I hope we can get him back in.
Okay.
All right, thank you. The next thing we're going to do is approval of the minutes of May 20th, 2020. I entertain a motion to approve the minutes of May 20th.
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Alderwoman Howard.
Aye.
Alderwoman Green.
Aye.
Alderman Tide.
Aye.
Chairwoman Tyers.
Aye.
4 aye votes.
Okay, so there seems to be a problem. I have the agenda for the joint meeting and not the agenda for the meeting that we're having. Alderwoman Green, do you have an agenda for the meeting we're having by any chance?
I do.
Okay, but I'm talking to my vice chair.
I'm sorry.
Hold on. I think it's in the folder here. It's taken a second to load.
Okay, because what I'm going to do is, can you see yours at the same time as we meet? Because I'm going to have to print mine out, go back and print mine out. So I'm going to let you conduct the meeting while I print mine out. What is the first board bill?
First board bill is board bill number 8.
And that is who?
And that is introduced by Alderwoman Shameem Clark-Hubbard.
Okay. Can you all handle this while I try to get my stuff printed out?
Yes.
Okay. If you just go ahead and run the meeting, I'll print out my agenda so I'll know which board bills we're doing.
Okay. So board
Alderwoman Green is going to chair the meeting.
Give everybody a second to look over it. So board bill number 8 is the board bill to consent to request the St. Louis City Mental Health Board to place the early childhood tax in front of voters.
I have a question. Do people viewing this have access to this board bill?
It is on the city's website.
On the Board of Alderman
Yeah,
website?
on the
Okay.
Board of Alderman website.
Okay.
Alderwoman Howard, do you see anything that needs to be changed?
I don't. I read it over before and I didn't find any errors. It will be on the November 3rd ballot. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. And it's asking to levy a additional tax of 6 cents per $100 of assessed valuation on property. Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Like, I'm just going through the fiscal note here. It looks like everything has been filled out.
Mhm.
Alderman Todd, do you see any issues with Board Bill number 8?
No, I do not, Madam Chairwoman.
Okay, then I will entertain a motion to pass out Board Bill number 8.
So moved.
Second.
Someone want to call previous roll?
Previous one.
Okay. Okay, now it looks like next up is Board Bill number 10, introduced by Alderwoman Carol Howard.
Okay, and I'm back.
Okay, we're on Board Bill number 10. If-
Yes, I could hear you because I have you dialed up on my phone. So we'll take a minute to look at Board Bill number 10, introduced by Alderwoman Carol Howard. It's an ordinance repealing the City of St. Louis Ordinance 70973 pertaining to parking within the 5347 Nottingham Parking District, enacting a new ordinance revising the name of said parking district, adding to its location, establishing restrictions for parking within the district, and authorizing placement of permit parking only signs and containing a definition clause, penalty clause, and emergency clause. Alderwoman Green, do you have any problems with Board Bill number 10?
So line 1, it looks like there might be an extra R. It says pertaining to parking within the R, quote, 5347 Nottingham.
I see that. Yeah.
Right, I see it too. Okay. Madam Clerk, you get that correction? Anything else, Alderwoman Green?
That is all that I see. Everything else looks correct to me.
Alderwoman Howard?
The only thing, and I did request this, but I don't see it. The previous ordinance is here. I had asked for, and I thought I sent a map, but it's not attached here. So I don't know. Did they attach those when we engross them? What was our
They
policy
should.
on that, Madam Chair?
Yes, we should have it. Can we get it attached after this meeting and pass it with a request that we have a map attached, Madam Clerk?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Okay, Alderman Todd?
I don't see any problem with them.
Okay, and I have no questions because I saw the same R. If we have no questions, I'd entertain a motion to pass Board Bill 10 out with a due pass recommendation.
So moved.
Second. Previous roll.
Any objections? Any objections to previous roll? Hearing none, Board Bill number 10 is passed out with a due pass recommendation. I'm going to skip, since we have people to speak about Board Bill number 13, we're going to go ahead and do 16, and then we'll address that one last. Board Bill 16 is introduced by Alderman Joseph Bolmer. It's an ordinance to provide for the borrowing of funds in anticipation of the collection of tax payments levied by the City of St. Louis, Missouri, for deposit in its general revenue fund for the calendar year ending December 31st, 2020, and remaining uncollected and other revenues remaining to be collected and deposited in the general revenue fund for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2021. all such revenues for the general revenue fund in the treasury of the city of St. Louis, Missouri, through the issuance by the city of St. Louis, Missouri of its tax and revenue anticipation notes and the acquiring of credit enhancements if necessary in order to lower the cost of such borrowing, prescribing the form and detail of such notes, authorizing and approving certain documents and other action, and containing an emergency clause. Give us a minute to look over it. Alderwoman Green.
I do not see any issues.
Alderwoman Howard.
I see no exceptions, no. That's all.
Alderman Todd.
I don't see any problems with it.
Hearing no problems, I'd entertain a motion for Board Bill number 16 to be passed out with a due pass recommendation.
So moved.
Second.
Previous roll.
Any objection to previous roll? Hearing none, Board Bill 16 is passed out with a due pass recommendation. Okay, moving right along. Hello? Okay.
We're here.
Okay, you blanked out for a minute. Now we're going to look at Board Bill number 13, introduced by Alderman Jeffrey Boyd. It's an ordinance recommended by the Parking Commission and the Board of Estimate and Apportionment, making appropriations for the transfer of the sum of $5 million from the parking meter fund to the general reserve fund of the city of St. Louis to help offset expenditures from the general reserve fund necessitated by the COVID-19 pandemic and the extraordinary costs incurred by the city in its efforts to protect health and well-being of the public, contained an emergency clause. Now, I don't know if you all got it. I sent it to both clerks and to each of you. We got two opinions about the effect of doing said removal of $5 million from the treasurer's fund. Also, the treasurer requested that she and her staff member and someone by the name of, who was the other person, Brandon Comer, the Parking Division's financial advisor, be able to come and speak to us. We also have Alderman Boyd here, who is the sponsor of the bill. We received a letter also from Gerald W. Hollins Jr., who works for the Board of Aldermen. I don't know if you've had time to read what I emailed you, or if did you receive it? Everybody get it?
Yes, I got it.
Okay. I'm sorry, Alderman Boyd. I didn't send you one. You want me to send it to you right now? Can you unmute him, please?
I believe I have it if it's the same letter that was presented yesterday in streets. If it's a different letter and the treasurer can speak to that, if it's a different analysis, then I don't have it.
It's okay, so the analysis is from CCG? Is that the Comer Capital Group? Is that the one?
Talks about.
Okay, so you already have it. Can you unmute him, please?
No, I think it talks about average days of revenue or something like. I believe I do have it, but the treasurer could. I think I got it from the treasurer. So if that's what we're talking about, I have it.
Okay. Alderman Boyd, since you're the sponsor of the bill, you're a member of the Board of Aldermen, I would give you first chance if you want to speak to this committee at all about this board bill.
Well, I guess I'm a little perplexed about rules having public testimony on board bills when the Rules Committee job is to make sure that the bill is in due form. I mean, this bill is not up for debate, and debate will be done in the committee hearing as well as perfection and third reading and final passage. So I'm not sure why, unless I can give you clarity on some technical issues, I'm not sure why I need to make many comments and why the treasurer or the financial advisor would be making any testimony on this bill, because it is not, whatever they say is not going to be germane to, I'm guessing, to the technical aspects of the bill. So maybe you can enlighten me on why testimony is necessary.
Mr. Alderman Boyd, we have testimony many times because we've had problems with bills. We've had different problems that have arisen. In fact, the stadium bill was so messed up, we had to hold it, the soccer stadium bill, and send it back. And we had both lawyers appear. So this is not the first or second or the fifth time that we've done that. We've actually brought Dale Rousset and other people over because we have had so many problems with the bill. So we do have testimony. There are some procedural things, but there are also, when you are engrossing the bills, there's some legal reasons that you may not engross a bill. So although people think it's purely ministerial and dot your I's and cross your T's and make sure everything is in the proper form, there are some other things that are addressed also. So you're not the first to be able to ask or be able to come and speak. And you don't have to if you don't want to, but we have had people here.
I would like to speak to any type of technical issues with the bill, but I'm not in agreement with the fact that the Rules and Engrossment Committee, should be taking testimony on the merits of a bill.
Okay, I appreciate that's what your objection is, and as the committee chair, committee chairs can have testimony or not. There's nothing that prevents us from this. And as I said before, all the members here can tell you we've had people here before, and you're the first person to object to it. And we needed to have them here because there are problems, because we are looking at other things. So I appreciate your objection. I see the Alderwoman from the 15th has her hands up. Alderwoman Green.
I had a question. Was anybody from the treasurer's office permitted to testify on this bill when it was in committee?
It was open to the public. I didn't get any correspondence from them. I think at the end of the meeting, I saw in the chat room, there was a request to speak. I didn't even know who it was until after the meeting. And I believe it was Jared Boyd that wanted to speak, but by then we had already voted on the bill. I'm not sure why the treasurer didn't make it to have testimony on the bill. It's published to the public. The meeting is well known, so we just went on with the meeting. But to let the chair know, the whole Zoom meetings is kind of still new. It's evolving, and I never heard anything from the treasurer's office. Nobody corresponded with me and said, "Hey, Alderman Boyd, I see the bill is being heard. We would like to make sure that we are a participant." That never happened. And so they didn't testify, but that wasn't on me. That was because they didn't communicate that they were interested in testifying.
For the record.
Excuse me, you have to be recognized. Alderwoman Green, would you like Mr. Boyd to be, Mr. Boyd to be recognized from the treasurer's office? Not Alderman, Mr.
Just like to understand, were you at that meeting? Were you there before the vote took place? Because we, as a body, we have to be allowing public testimony on bills. That's a part of our rules. And if for some reason that public testimony wasn't allowed to take place, that is a violation of our rules.
May I speak, Madam Chairwoman?
Yes, she recognized you. Okay, but we can't just speak right after the Alderman. She has the floor. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Before the vote took place and as the bill was actually coming up for debate, I raised my hand both in the section and asked if I could speak on the bill. I was notified that public comments weren't really being accepted on the bill. So that was during the meeting, but before the bill came up for debate.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? Did you say you were notified that public testimony was not being accepted on the bill?
I think that was what was communicated after in the chat section. Because it was the clerk said that there was a question. I both raised my hand and wrote something in the chat, and the clerk flagged that, but was not allowed to testify.
Alderwoman Green, you have just a minute, Alderman Boyd. Alderwoman Green, you have further questions from Mr. Boyd?
No further questions, but anything that is in the chat is public record. So, we should be able to request that information from the clerk of when that request was made to speak, and be able to verify that that Mr. Boyd did in fact ask to testify and was not able to, which would be in violation of our rules.
No, it wouldn't be.
It wouldn't be.
It would not be.
So we do not.
Madam Chairman, may I speak?
She was asking you a question, so you have the floor to respond.
The rules technically say that there are two kinds. All meetings of the Board of Aldermen must be public. Meetings for public testimony are a separate category of meetings. Those are to be advertised in advance and people given the opportunity, and the rules are supposed to be spelled out. A typical committee meeting is open to the public to view, but not to testify. If that meeting has been planned as a regular meeting, meaning one that does not allow for public testimony, a chairperson could allow a person to speak if they so wished. However, the question that was asked me was whether or not there was going to be public testimony. Since the meeting had not been planned nor scheduled or posted for public testimony, the answer was no. That it was, in fact, the answer was this is not a meeting for public testimony, but basically a regular committee meeting that is open to the public to view.
So then my question would be, can we pass out a board bill without ever taking public testimony on it?
Yes, you can, according to the rules.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think we need to look at a rule change, because I think that that is problematic to pass out a bill without allowing for public testimony on it. So that is.
There are, if I may continue, there are a number of problems with the rules
yes.
that the chair of the Rules Committee has been talking about changing, and that I've been recommending since I've been clerk.
So I was sick the second week of, you all don't know this, but I did send it to the clerk. So I had really bad allergies. My face swelled up and I could hardly for several weeks, and it got really bad. So I actually have a list of things that I would like for us to sit down and talk about and change. I didn't get to do it. In fact, I had asked the president, if you will recall, to hold off doing rules, because there are a number of things that we need to address, including the fact that I'm not going to continue to enroll and sit up there and come in the evenings and on Sundays and everything else to get these board bills out. It's too much for a lot of people. So we'll discuss that at a different time. But I had become aware, and you all know that we've had people testify before. I understand Alderman Boyd's concern, but prerogative of the chair. And I've been in the chair for a lot of times. This is not my first rodeo. I've actually been the chair of public safety, public utilities, intergovernmental affairs. So I've been the chair. I've been here for 19 years. So I'm pretty familiar with the rules and try to be pretty fair. So it was my prerogative, and I am going to allow Mr. Boyd, and then I think that excuse me, I'm going to also, what's his name, Mr. Comer, and then the treasurer to speak on this bill if they want to. Alderman, did you have another question?
No, I just.
I was looking at this damn rules, man. But all right, no, I tried to look and see what judges did. I'm just saying, just make sure. You know, you probably won't be.
I'm sorry. Who is that?
That was Tom Shepard. Okay, he's muted now.
Okay.
Okay. So there is a record of the meeting, and so everybody can see when a chat was requested and what kind of response. Certainly, I have no reason to not want to allow the treasurer or her staff to testify before a bill that impacts them. The treasurer has my cell number. You know, sometimes we're texting each other on these calls because it's not like we can touch each other anymore where we have actually committee hearing. So sometimes we're texting each other, we're calling each other, hey, where are you? And what about this? And what about that? And so the fact that the treasurer did not call me, I'm a little disappointed, because if somebody had called me, I'd have just said, hey, let the treasurer in, let Jared Boyd in to the meeting, because I'm about process. And so I want to make it very clear, I didn't do anything nefarious by not allowing them. The treasurer failed to communicate with me that there was a willingness to testify on the bill or against the bill. So I let the record reflect that. Let me be clear. The treasurer has my cell phone number. And if the treasurer wanted to testify, the treasurer could have communicated that to me, and I would have ensured that the treasurer's office was part of that meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Boyd. And I want to take a point of privilege to say, as a chair, I always, whatever the committee is, if an alderman person comes to my committee hearing, I will let them speak if they want to speak. I will also let other people speak, even if it's not a public meeting, especially if it has something to do with their bill. So I understand what you're saying, Alderman Boyd, and so also recognize that I'm the chair of this meeting, and I'm going to allow this. And if you came here today, and the first thing I did was give you courtesy to make sure that you were able to have your point of view spoken. Is that not correct?
That's correct, Madam Chairwoman.
Okay. And have you ever noticed that when I speak to the rules, I speak to them equally to everybody?
I think we both can agree that we are very rules oriented.
Okay. So we're going to go on. Alderwoman Green, did you have any more questions of Mr. Boyd or the treasurer or Mr. Comer? They're here also. So did you have any other further questions right now?
No.
You need to, okay. Alderwoman Howard, do you have any questions of Mr. Boyd?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Okay. Madam Treasurer, would you like to speak or would you like to have, I'm sorry, Alderman Todd, I didn't mean to leave you out. Alderman Todd, do you have any questions at this time of Mr. Boyd?
No, I do not have any questions, Madam Chair.
Okay. Madam Treasurer, do you wish to speak or would you like to have Mr. Comer speak, or how would you like this to happen? Because I'm going to accommodate you as best I can.
Thank you for having us, Madam Chair. At this point, I'd like to just review the same information that we presented yesterday at the Streets, Traffic, and Refuse meeting regarding the $5 million transfer and what that does to our reserve position. As you requested from the Board of Aldermen meeting last Thursday, you wanted a financial analysis, and Mr. Comer is here to give the committee an update or some details regarding that analysis. So, Mr. Comer.
Thank you, Madam Treasurer. Yeah, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Currently,
can you tell me a little bit about you, Mr. Excuse me, can you tell me a little bit about you, Mr. Comer?
Oh, sure, Madam Chair. Brandon Comer of Comer Capital Group. We serve as the municipal advisor to the parking division, which we've done for the past several years, advising on bond issuances, financial impact of project, as well as various rating impacts and various other financial matters. And we represent several other cities across the country as well.
Okay, thank you.
And currently, the parking division has about $15,773,200 in unrestricted cash reserves. And if the $5 million potential transfer were to take place, that will reduce that unrestricted amount to $10,773,200. It's important to note that would go against annual operating expenses of about $13,451,000, which would bring the days cash on hand to $292. That's important because in the transportation sector, even though the parking division is part of the city, it's an enterprise system that's in the transportation infrastructure sector. The median days cash on hand in that sector in 2018 and 2019 was 600 days. And higher levels of liquidity are important because of the concentration risk. So unlike a general fund, where you have ad valorem taxes and various other essential measures of revenue coming in, as COVID-19 has highlighted, the impact on an enterprise fund like parking, where revenues could literally go down to zero, could be quite profound, which is why excess reserves are important. So Standard & Poor's actually put almost all long-term debt in that sector on a negative outlook, given the potential impact of COVID-19. Now, the parking division received a rating upgrade a few years ago, and it has maintained that. And when we did a $10 million one-time transfer to the general fund, one of the things that was articulated was that the parking division would attempt to always maintain at least 365 days cash on hand, which is still well below the median, but that was a level in which the rating agency felt comfortable would allow the parking division to maintain its existing rating, which is A on its senior debt and A- on its subordinate debt. That a rating in of itself is not really a trivial matter because it impacts the ability of the parking division to borrow and the cost of that borrowing. So, for example, on a $10 million transaction, if they were to fall into the BBB category, over 20 years, that has well over $500,000 to $1 million impact on the amount of interest expense that would be paid over that issue. And right now, the parking division has about $40 million of subordinate debt outstanding, some of which is refundable now that we can refund and receive interest savings. But if the rating was to be downgraded, which is a potential likelihood if the transfer is made, then that could potentially put that ability to refund that debt in jeopardy. So again, I just want to reemphasize that, even at current levels, we're still below the median for this sector before the transfer. After the transfer, we would be well below, and it's not an apples to apples comparison to look at the reserves of the parking division versus, a general fund, for example. Reserves and general funds are going to always be at lower levels because of the essentiality and the diversification of the revenues. But when you have a concentration risk like parking, you need those levels of liquidity because they're being drawn on now. Those reserves are actually being used to offset the decline in revenue because the parking division also relies on large sporting events and large gatherings, which as the economy rebounds will probably be prolonged before those revenues are realized. So they will be dependent on those revenues now more than ever. And this is an exact reason as to why they've maintained those reserves at those levels. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I need the 2012
Okay, excuse me, I'm hearing some background noise. Is there somebody unmuted that's talking that's not on part of this meeting? Because if you are, please mute yourself. Thank you. Okay, so Alderwoman Green, do you have any questions of Mr. Comer? You need to speak. You're shaking your head. Okay.
I do not.
Thank you. Okay, Alderwoman Howard, do you have any questions of him?
I do. So what you're saying is that there is no specific reserve recommended by the or held by the parking commission. Is that true? There is no target reserve at this point?
The parking division articulated a target reserve of 365 days cash on hand, which it maintained through the rating process.
So that's
that has been.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry, Alderman. Yes, that would be a year's cash on hand.
A year's income or a year's expenses?
A year's expenses.
Okay. So at this point, they have what on hand, cash?
$15,773,200, which would be approximately 428 days.
Okay. So the downgrade, what are they rated? What are these bonds rated at now?
The senior debt is currently rated A, and the subordinate debt, which is the bulk of it. So there's currently 51 million in debt combined. 11 million is senior, which is rated A, and 40 million is subordinate, which is rated A-. So a downgrade to the bulk of that debt being subordinate would put them into the BBB category. So it's a little more impactful than just a one-notch downgrade because you're also following letter grades. So it would have a somewhat of a sizable impact.
What would be the next step down?
Triple B plus.
Okay. So it would be triple B as opposed to triple B plus. So this would make it a little more difficult for the sale of these bonds? Is that what the ultimate sacrifice is?
I wouldn't say the difficult for selling them. It would be, the impact would be the cost of the borrowing. So the interest rate that we would get would likely be higher because it's of a lower credit quality. And that's important because obviously, you know, the parking division usually borrows bonds for 15, 20 plus years. And so incremental increases in the interest rate actually cost the city a significant amount of interest expense over the life of those bonds.
But
and then there's, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, and I was just saying also, you know, twice we've been able to refund bonds for the parking division, taking advantage of lower rates and saving money for the parking division, as there is currently an opportunity to do that. But if the interest rate we'd have to borrow at would be higher based on a rating downgrade, then that could be in jeopardy potentially.
So the interest rate is set by two things, the current Fed interest rate and the rating that your credit rating, I guess. Those two things come into play?
Primarily, yes, ma'am.
Okay. So what would you expect the interest rate now to be for if you wanted to convert these? You said there's an opportunity right now. I mean, the interest rates now are bargain basement prices. What would be the advantage of trading these in at this point?
They are low, and the savings we've projected were close to $1 million, but the impact could be anywhere from 20 basis points. You know, again, we would know for sure when we actually went into the marketplace.
Right. So would that be that $1 million? Would that be for a year? How much would you gain? I mean, what would the time that in savings would take place?
It will be over the life of the issue, and for that issue, that would be for an additional. Let's see, thanks. That would be about another 16 years.
Okay. That's all the questions I have.
Those were great questions, Alderwoman. I tell you, are you in finance on the sideline? I appreciate those questions. Alderman Todd, you have any questions?
No, I do not have any, Madam Chair.
I do have questions. It is 1:55 now, and we have another meeting that starts at 2. I'm so sorry. I'm going to have to defer. We're going to come back to this probably, and I'm going to have to talk to the clerk, but I'm going to have to hold this, and maybe we can meet Thursday sometime to conclude this, but I don't want to push. We have another very important meeting that starts at 2 o'clock, so we got started late, so I'm very sorry to everyone, but we're going to just hold this now. And I also want to bring Mr. Hollins in, who got me something this morning. Do you think you all will be able to come back anytime tomorrow if we can get something set up? Because we're not going to adjourn. We're just going to come back. But we have to have another meeting that starts at 2. And we have 3 people coming before us. Madam Treasurer, do you think you might be able to come?
Yes, ma'am. We have our Ways and Means Committee hearing tomorrow.
So we'll talk about what times off the when I'll have to call you or email you or something like that. But just know that we're going to, because we want to get it done by Friday, so we'll have to meet tomorrow because we have to go into this meeting. I'm sorry, I really am. Mr. Comer, will you be able to come back?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay, I will talk to you afterwards. Okay, and we'll set something up for tomorrow. It'll probably be in the evening because Ways and Means is during the day.
Okay.
All right.
Thank
you. I appreciate it. Madam Clerk. So I guess we're going to just take a break, and then we're going to come back with a joint meeting with the Engrossment and Rules and Health Committee. So we'll probably get started a few minutes late. Yes.
I have a question. Will this
Yes,
be
ma'am.
on the same, will this be on the same strand this meeting's on, or do we have to sign in again for that meeting?
I was told that we're just going to take a break and we're going to be on the same strand. They're just going to add them in to us.
Okay.
How much of a break are we gonna take?
What you need, 5 minutes or 10?
I need whatever everybody else need. I'm not hard to long.
Is 5 minutes okay, you guys? Is 5 minutes okay? Okay, we'll take a 5-minute break. I got it right at 1:58, so it will come back about 2:05. We'll be a few minutes late, okay?
All right.
Thank you.